Chapter 13. The House on the Hill. Lila slowly climbed the hill toward the old house. She pushed the front door. It opened with a long, quiet creak. She stepped inside and gently closed the door behind her. Outside, the sun was bright, but inside, the air felt cold and heavy. The house was dark. There was a strange smell. Old wood, dust, and forgotten things. I must not be afraid, Lila thought. I have to find the old woman. She knows something about Marion. Maybe my sister is here. Thinking about her sister gave her courage. Lila moved carefully toward the stairs. Back at the motel, Sam stood in the office, watching Norman. "You don't talk much, do you?" he said. Norman leaned against the wall, his hands in his pockets. He gave a short, nervous laugh. "I thought people who live alone like to talk." "You do live alone, right?" "Yes," Norman said quietly. "I hate being alone," Sam continued. "When I'm alone, I feel like I'm losing my mind." Norman stopped smiling. "Why would you say that?" Sam shrugged. "I think people who stay alone too long go crazy." He looked satisfied with his own words. Norman's face tightened. "Don't you agree?" Sam asked. Norman's cheeks slowly turned red. At that moment, Lila reached the top of the stairs. She stood in front of a bedroom door. She knocked softly. "Mrs. Bates?" she called. No answer. Lila slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. She froze. Everything in the room looked extremely old. Heavy curtains covered the windows. Soft golden lamps stood against dark walls. It felt as if time had stopped. Lila walked slowly across the room. She stopped in front of a large wardrobe with a mirror on the door. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside, long dresses were hanging. Old dresses, bright, patterned, and very old-fashioned, clothes from another time. She quietly closed the wardrobe. Then she looked around again. Her eyes stopped on a small table near the bed. There were little glass figures shaped like cats, old silver dishes, and photographs, pictures of children, or maybe the same child at different ages. Everything felt frozen. But one thing was even stranger. The room was perfectly clean. Too clean. If this is the mother's room, Lila thought, why does nothing change? It's like no one touches anything. Only the bed looked used. The blanket was slightly disturbed. "She was here recently," Lila whispered. "So she must be somewhere in the house. But where?" Back in the motel office, "You don't look happy here," Sam said. "Why don't you leave this place?" Norman slowly shook his head. "This place is my life," he said. "I grew up in that house. I was happy there. My mother and I, we were very close." Upstairs, Lila entered another room. It was small and untidy. The bed was unmade. Books were scattered everywhere. There were toys on the floor. Norman's room, she thought. She picked up one of the books. It was about strange illnesses and the human mind. Another book spoke about dark secrets and unusual behavior. Looking around, Lila began to understand. He's like a child, she thought. A clever child who never really grew up. He depends on his mother. Back in the office, "You look nervous," Sam said. Did I scare you? Norman frowned. What are you talking about? I mentioned your mother, Sam said slowly. And suddenly, you looked afraid. Norman said nothing. Sam stepped closer. So, how are you going to do it? Do what? Norman asked sharply. Start a new life, Sam replied. A new motel in another town. You won't need to hide your mother anymore. Norman's eyes became cold. He didn't like this man. Not at all. And where will you get the money? Sam continued. Or do you already have it? $40,000? Maybe? Norman turned away and walked into the back room. Sam followed him. Your mother knows about the money, doesn't she? Sam said. She knows what you did, and I think she might tell us. Norman suddenly turned around. His eyes were burning. His heart was racing. Now I understand, he shouted. I know why you are here. Where is that girl who came with you? Sam said nothing. He turned and walked toward the door. That was his mistake. Norman grabbed a heavy metal box. He rushed forward and struck Sam hard on the head. Sam fell to the floor. Without stopping, Norman ran out of the office. I must find that girl, he thought, before she finds Mother. And he ran quickly up the hill toward the old house. Chapter 14. The Cellar. When Lila came back down the stairs, she stopped. Through the window near the front door, she saw Bates. He was running up the hill toward the house. There was no time to think about Sam. She had to hide. Lila hurried toward the kitchen. Behind her, she heard the front door open. Bates was inside. Suddenly, she saw a narrow staircase. It led down into a cellar. Without hesitation, she stepped onto the top stair and waited. Bates stood still for a moment. He couldn't see her, but he knew she was there, somewhere in the house, probably upstairs, searching for his mother. Lila listened. She heard him go up the stairs, into his mother's room. Now, she could escape. She could run and find Sam. But she didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the dark staircase below. What if the mother was down there? What if Marion and Arbogast were still alive, hidden somewhere in the cellar? She had to know. Slowly, carefully, she began to go down. The cellar was dark. The air was heavy. There was a strange smell. Oil, dust, and something dead. Lila stood still for a few seconds. Then she noticed a faint light, far away, on the other side of the room. It came from under a door. She moved toward it, step by step, passing old tables covered with glass bottles, knives, and metal tins. Her breath was quiet, her heart loud. At last, she reached the door. She pushed it open, slowly. Inside, there was a small room. A single light burned on the ceiling. In the center stood a wooden chair. It faced the wall, and on that chair sat a woman. Lila looked at the back of her head. The woman didn't move. She looked asleep. Mrs. Bates? Lila said softly. No answer. Mrs. Bates? She repeated, stepping closer. Still, nothing. Lila reached out and touched her shoulder. Then she turned the chair around and looked at the face. The first thing she saw was the teeth. Large, yellow. Then she understood. There were no eyes, only empty darkness. The face was dry, brown, lifeless. It was a corpse, a dead woman. Lila screamed. She stepped back, ready to run. But suddenly, she froze. Someone was standing in the doorway, a tall shadow, with long gray hair, wearing a flowered dress. Slowly, it moved into the light. The face appeared, white, twisted, with a terrible smile, and wild, shining eyes. Then, Lila saw the knife. She tried to scream again, but no sound came out. Her throat was dry. Her body felt weak. She stepped back. Slowly, the figure rushed toward her, laughing. The knife raised, ready. Suddenly, another person burst into the room. Sam. He grabbed the figure from behind, one arm around the neck, the other gripping the wrist, trying to stop the knife. The figure struggled wildly, screaming, fighting, but Sam was stronger. He forced it down toward the floor. Lila watched, frozen in fear. And then, something impossible happened. As Sam pulled the figure down, the long gray hair slipped and fell aside. Lila's eyes widened. She understood. That was not a woman. It was Norman Bates. And he was screaming like a woman. Lila pressed herself against the wall. She felt sick. She could not move. And behind them, in the chair, sat the real Mrs. Bates, dead, her empty eyes staring, her dry face frozen in a terrible smile. She seemed to be watching her son as he screamed on the cold stone floor.
Подпишись, пожалуйста, или хотя бы поставь лайк. Один лайк не меняет мир, но меняет путь того, кто делится смыслом.